Hi everyone! In today's video, I'm going to be covering the changes in the royalty structure that are taking in effect on June 1st of 2020 for all contributors. Hi everyone, I'm Julie here from Learn Stock Photography. So I'm going to be covering all the changes that everyone's dying to hear about. So I want to get right into it and tell you a little bit about the email that all of the contributors have gotten this week on Tuesday to tell us about the royalty changes taking in effect at Shutterstock as of June 1st. So here is a small portion of the email that I got as a contributor. This is to give us an idea of the changes that are taking in effect at Shutterstock. So as you can see, they are changing their royalties based on a few different things. So for example, the level that you are at as a contributor that determine your royalty is no longer based on your lifetime earnings. It is now based on your amount of downloads in a year, and it will reset every year in January. So that's a major change. It also changes in the fact that the commission now is no longer based on a minimum amount of money, which was about 25 to 38 cents for subscription. It is now based on a percentage. So that changes a lot of the calculation. Now here is an example of what the royalties are looking like before June 1st. So you can see that there is a lot of information, but I am going to focus today on the subscription royalty because this is what contributors will earn the most from most portfolios. So let me show you here a little bit from my cursor. So here you could see that photographers that only have a small amount of earnings from their portfolio, either because they only have a few images, they're new, things like that, they are going to earn a minimum of 25 cents for subscription-based images. And photographers that are advanced, so for example, that have earned more than $10,000, earn then 38 cents per download. So that's my case. I've been a contributor for 8 years. So my commission on subscription-based images has been 38 cents for a few years now. And now I'll take you to the new subscription model. So I've simplified things a little bit in the sense that I've taken an average price for subscription because there's different point that client could buy. So they could pay monthly for a higher fee, they could commit yearly and pay that fee monthly, or they could pay a 1-year time fee, which would be cheaper. So I took the one in the middle just to give an idea of like the middle tier of royalty that we would earn based on the subscription model. Now, as I've mentioned before, the levels that we have here, they are based on the amount of downloads that you have from January 1st. So at January 1st, everyone will start at level 1. And then after that, depending on the amount of sales that you have, you will climb higher or slower. And from that level, we have different royalties. So it goes from 15 to 40%. But one thing that is different is that because it's based on a percentage, it will also vary depending on what type of subscription the client is on. So there is subscription for every need from 10 images a month to 750 images a month. So that will also vary much in price. So here I did a little bit of the calculation. So we could see that someone, for example, at level 1 that makes a sale from a subscription that is 750 images a month would earn as little as 4 cents. All right, so that's not cool. But we also see that someone who is level 4, for example, and makes a sale on 10 images a month, then would earn $1.16. So that's a lot higher. So subscription royalties beforehand were 25 cents to 38 cents, depending on your level. But now we have more factors to consider. So the subscription are going to vary from 4 cents to $1.16 based on the yearly level you're at and on the subscription model the client who buys the image is on. So now, as we can see, we have a much bigger variation. Now, let me take you into an example directly from my stats. So I am a middle ground contributor, I would say. So I am not a content machine like certain businesses that are producing thousands and thousands of images every month, every year. This is not my case. I'm a medium-sized contributor. I try to bring in content that is valuable, but that means that sometimes I will produce more, sometimes I will produce less. So now let's say we are on January 1st. What would happen for a contributor like me based on the yearly levels? So I would get to level 2 within about 5 to 7 days at the most. So already in the first week of January, my commissions would start getting higher. And from that, I would get to level 4 by the end of January. And to get to the level that I am now, which is level 5, one tier from the highest possible level, I would reach that in about April or May. Now here, let's have a look a little bit at some of my numbers that I've taken from Stock Performer from my portfolio. So in January 2020 at Shutterstock, I had 443 downloads. So here are the numbers based on the amount of downloads, not the revenue. So as you can see, subscription really is the biggest earner. But the one thing to pay attention to is that we only have the information that it's a subscription-based purchase. And we don't have the information on whether it's a subscription of 10 images a month or 750 images a month. And that plays a huge factor in the royalty as we've seen previously. Now, I'm talking about all of that today because photographers are really worried. Since we've started to hear about that news, photographers are having strong opinions and going into it. And some of those reasons are very legit. For example, that is a humongous change of structure that is brought in only 5 days before they're taken into effect. So that's not leaving a lot of time for photographers to react and make a decision on whether they want to keep going with Shutterstock or not. And one more point is that changing the commission from a percentage to a minimum basic commission in money, it leaves photographers in a very vulnerable position. So for example, if there was a change in the price structure at Shutterstock, what would happen is that everyone's commission would go down because it is based on that percentage. And that's a little bit what happens. So they changed the pricing structure for the footage section of their site in April, so just last month. And another reason why photographers are worried is that it has happened in the past. So that happened at iStock, for example, about 5-6 years ago, where they changed their commission structure and then their price structure, leaving photographers with royalties as little as 2 cents per sale. And so photographers are very worried about that, understandably. But behind all of that, let's go over a few facts here. So the reality is that one thing that's going on is that Shutterstock has gotten a new CEO in April. Now, it doesn't have to be a good thing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, but often when new CEO rise to the occasion, they want to prove themselves and prove that they could bring more money for the business. So we will have to wait a little bit to see what happens with that. Now, secondly, in their communication, Shutterstock talked about the fact that they are doing this change to keep contributor more active. Because some photographers were relying on the experience they had in their old portfolio with high levels of earning, they feel like contributors sometimes weren't keeping as fresh as possible. Now, the reality is that stock agencies are a market, and it's a competitive one because now there is more and more people wanting to offer their images on stock agencies. So it is normal that the market will get a little bit more competitive. And one more thing to keep in mind is that at this point, it's hard to know if the royalties will be higher or lower, because as we've seen, they go much higher and much lower than the structure that was previously established. And now with that, I want to leave you with a few of my opinions. So as a contributor, what is my take on this? So first of all, it's hard for me to be fully optimistic. And people that know me know that I'm usually the optimist type. But here, I want to keep a reserve. And the reason for that is that most agencies don't do changes to give contributors more money. They want to keep more money in their pocket. Now to that, there is some exception. So for example, we've seen Adobe stock raise their commission commission for photographers a few years back. But that also keeps in mind that their business model, their client at Adobe, are all creatives. They have a reputation to keep, as I don't believe this is really the case with Shutterstock. They're a big company and their interest is much more on profit than the contributors. But overall, my take is that there is too many things up in the air and there's too many changes at the same time to fully know what's going to happen. There's a lack of information to fully know and anticipate if the revenues are going to go higher, lower, or stay even, and for what type of contributors. So my take on this is that I am cautious and I will take a month or two to see what happens with the earnings. And my goal is to come back with a second part of this video and provide you with more information about what's going to happen here with the commissions. So with all of that said, I hope you enjoyed the video with the little information and clarification I could provide. I'm looking forward to giving you an update in about a month or a month and a half, and I invite you to subscribe and like this video. Until next time, keep on shooting.